Okay, good morning everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to the first webinar together. Today we're going to talk about the importance of communication and how to address the questions during COVID-19. My name is Anna, and next to me is Dan, and questions are always appreciated, so please let's make this interactive. But before we start, I would like to tell you that we're going to run a series of 6 different webinars with different topics, all Wednesdays, 3 o'clock Central European Time. And for more information about the webinars, please have a look at our web at bookboost.io. So let's get started.
Right. Okay, so then I'm just going to figure out here how to share the screen. So.
Here we go.
There we go. Righty. So any more practicality before we get kicking?
Yeah. Or no, let's get kicking.
Yeah. All right. So first in this webinar, we're gonna explain to you why it's important to be available for your guests and how to handle such crises that we're all going through now. And we've spoken with a lot of our customers and we really understand how difficult it is. And we want to give you some tips and tricks on how you can use digital communication to mitigate the impact. So we will do so over showing the demo in the tool, and then there's some time at the end for questions. And indeed, like you said, like we would really appreciate when questions just come right, so we can keep it interactive and mostly focus on what you question.
Yeah.
So why is it so important to be available for your guests? And what we really see is that, especially now in such crisis, it's so important that you're available for your guests, that they know where they can find you, and that you communicate clear, because they have a lot of questions. It's new for you as hotelier, this situation, but it's also new for your guests. So they have a lot of questions. What happens to my booking? What's going to be next? How's the future going to look like? Like they made a purchase and now they want to know what happened to their purchase. And by nature, people, they just try to prevent having problems. So when they've made a booking, for instance, and they want to know what's next, it's really helpful for them if you as a hotelier help them with the right information, so you fix their problem. So the more easy you make it for them, the more the better their experience is. And this is what we see that can really help now, especially now when it's such a different situation than everyone is used to. So that's what you can do as a hotelier. And also what we see is that when the customer effort to get that information and to get that support is the lower it is, the better the experience it is. So as you can imagine, if you now need to make a lot of phone calls to figure out what happened to my booking, or you need to speak to different departments, every time you're connected to a different department, you need to wait, etc., etc. Like, this is really annoying for customers. So the lower the customer effort, if they can, with a few clicks, get their information, the better. So we really advise you to make it as accessible, make it as easy as possible for the guests to reach that. So a few tips for a great customer support, since it's so important, is be available for your guests. Meet your customers where they are. So whether it's email, whether it's chat, whether it's messaging, like try to be available and meet your customers on the channels they prefer. Provide also self-help. Close the loop. So always, like when someone has something like a question, try to close that loop, because then people can move on. And also, it's a good time now to improve your staff, their skills. So we will just zoom in a little bit on those different tips and tricks. And just a bit more about the background here. Like today, we really see that consumer expectations have changed. Like uh, especially towards younger generations, they're more used to using getting the mobile phone out, just going to a messaging channel, or just like on their mobile phone interact. Whether some other generations, of course, still prefer to use the phone, some prefer email. So it's really important that you as a business are available on the channel that your guests or your customers prefer. And yeah, we see a switch towards messaging channels more and more, since 87.1% today, or that this was a few years ago actually, and it's only rising, use messaging and social media to interact with between each other, but also with businesses. And 70% of consumers feel more confident, feel for brands that use messaging or that are accessible through messaging, they feel more confident with those kind of brands, because it's easier to reach customer support and to get what you're looking for. So here's just a breakup on those channels. Like everyone has a mobile phone today, and everyone has at least one, usually one or two messaging channels on there. And you see that WhatsApp is still the largest channel, and also Facebook Messenger is used amongst a lot of people. So going to the next tip, like what we see is that when you provide the right self-help setup for your guests, that they're actually really like taking that well, and they help themselves. So 91% of consumers that can use self-help use it, and they feel also that it meets their needs. So that even means that you don't need to help them personally, but when you are proactive about it and one step ahead of your guests and have the right tools in place so that they can find the information themselves, then 91% does so. So that's a really strong tool to lower your or to increase your efficiency while having the right tools in place for your guests to help them. And then when it comes to a customer reaching out to your brand, and when it comes to they reaching out to you with a question, so they require person-to-person support, then it's really important that you listen well to them, and that you handle accordingly, so that you close the loop with them, because they come to you, they have a question, and they come with a certain expectation, and you need to meet that expectation and fix it so that they can move forward. So that's very important when it comes to to personal support. And what you can do there is to train your staff their skills, is to do some exercises in active listening, in empathy, and when you apply those two techniques, then the customer feels listened to, and that's really important because they come to you with a certain expectation, and they want you to understand that. So that's the first two skills. And then when you've done so, and you also use positive language, and you have clear communication with a solution to their request, then that's like the perfect thing you can do, and the customer will feel listened to, and you help them with their request so you can move forward and they can close their loop for them. So this is a good time to invest little bit in those skills, and helping your staff out, improving those skills. And also there's a ton of tools out there that you can that can help you with customer support. So it's also a good time to invest a little bit in that and pay some attention to. So then moving forward, what BookBoost does is BookBoost is a unified inbox, and that's also the topic for today, to show you how that works, where you can actually funnel questions from different channels into one inbox. And we will focus today also on having a web messenger, because this relates a little bit to being available. Like you can actually use your website and use a web messenger there, and a self-help tool with pre-filled information for your website visitors to get answers to their questions. And that's what we're gonna show you in a little bit more detail in the tool. Let's just see if Yeah. So here we see the inbox, and what we want to show you in this demo. Oh. Is how you can have such website widget on your website for your visitors. So this is our website, and you see here that on our website there's a couple of buttons you can click, and then you get answers to those questions, and you can also connect other channels. So if I have a question, for instance, and I'm leaving the website, if I would then click on one of those channels, then I get my reply on that channel. So we see that that's quite convenient for also for hotel websites, and I want to show you an example here. So this is in German. Let's see if we can get it in English as well. So actually, you see that they are quite proactive with the information about the COVID-19. And you can click here for more information, and you can also click on the chat where you can get all your answers to your questions. So let's say I have a booking, and I want to know what will happen to my booking. Happens to my booking, for instance. Then it's really important that like we close the loop here so that I get my reply, and how that works on the back end we want to show you, because you can actually work with pre-filled replies. So here you see that the chat came in, and you see the question, what happens to my booking? And then you can work with quick replies that I will show you how to make in a minute. And how that works is that because we made the quick reply here, I just click and send, and then that information about what happens to my booking is sent. So just with 2 clicks, I get my reply, and for you, you just only need 2 clicks to send that. And so that means you don't need to type it all over again. And how you do that is in quick replies, you can like go really wild and make for each question, you can make an answer and have this set up. And I just want to show you the relevant example here is that, yeah, so the example we just showed you, it's this one. So what happens to my booking? The title here is COVID-19 booking information. And here is the reply that I got. And it's triggered because the tool understands that I asked a question regarding the COVID-19 booking. So with this simple setup, you can help your website visitors get the right information. You're available on the channels that they want. And you close the loop because I can move on now. My question is answered. And all this with minimal effort once you've set it up properly. So then just going back to the presentation is if you're really excited now and you you want to go one step further, you can also think of, okay, how can I measure my customer support? Like, how can I measure all this? I understand the concept, but I want to make it more concrete. And there's different ways to do so. You can measure the customer satisfaction score. For instance, at the end of a conversation, ask about your customers, how they've experienced this service. You can do the same with customer effort. So to test, like, okay, how easy was it for my customer to get the information that they require? The Net Promoter Score is also for satisfaction, and you can also monitor all your social media channels. And that way, like, get an idea of where you stand today, and that gives you a reference point for the future, which you can refer to. So if you would do the same thing in a few weeks' time, you can compare scores, and you have like a reference point for yourself to know how you're doing. So that was the information about how you can COVID-19. And Sorry for that. And how you can have the setup to help your guests with the information that they need. While for you, you could even do this from home. You can have this tool online. Well, you don't even need to monitor it because you can also work with automated flows. And we really advise you to do this because maybe now more than ever, it's so important that communication is clear, that guests can access the information, and together try to mitigate the impact and try to make your guests loyal to your brand, and then hopefully we get through this all together as soon as possible. So we're here to help you with that from what we can do at BookBoost. And we're curious if there's any questions.
And they are actually. I've been looking at this screen here, and we got quite a few questions. So thank you very much for that. I got one question here from a hotelier that asked how to get started with the chat widget for the messenger. So we have actually recorded approximately 3-minute video for that we have uploaded. You can find it also at our webpage. And it takes less than 5 minutes to get started and to get the chat widget up running. So please have a look, and we also have information about training, or if you have any questions, just reach out to us. But we got an interesting question as well, actually similar from 2 different listeners here, and that was if we can give any recommendations how available you should be during the crisis to be able to respond to the guest questions, and also to have the right communication platform. And I would say it's hard to give recommendations because depending on the market you operate in, and it also depends on the experience from your guests. But if you have a chat widget on your web page and someone is reaching out, they are also expecting to receive an answer. So you can actually decide if you want to have it available up running around the clock 24/7 or during specific times, and then it's important to be available for your guests when the questions are addressed.
Great. Okay. So another question here is okay. So the background is, so when I want to share information on my website, it's kind of like I need to change the website. Like, how dynamic is this? Because when things change, how easy is it to change the information in the solution as well? So actually you can, like, going back to what we showed in the demo, you can go really wild and put all your frequently asked questions in, for instance, and keep adding. So the tool will become smarter and smarter and recognize more and more questions, which makes the whole thing just work better. So we actually recommend you to keep adding content so that the more questions your guests have, the more questions the tool can already recognize and suggest and answer. So it's a really good question, and we actually see that this solution helps you to be dynamic because you can constantly make it more, make it bigger and make it smarter. Well, I think we also need to be wary of the time, right?
Yeah.
We said it will be 20 minutes, so we don't want to steal more of your time. You mentioned in the beginning that it's a series of webinars.
Mm-hmm.
So how about next?
It's about tips and tricks to Web Messenger. And for those of you that have already listened to us now, thank you very much. You don't have to follow it as a series from 1 to 6. You can also go back and start with number 2 or 3 or vice versa. But this is for the coming 20 minutes, we will give you some piece of advice how to get this up running in a good way.
Perfect. And then we will sit here again next week, same time, on the 15th of April at 3 o'clock. We will do a new one, the next one in the series. Looking forward.
Yeah, me too. And welcome back, everyone, and bring your colleagues along as well next time.
Okay.